Okay, so I just reached King of Games using the probably the most ugly deck I've ever made in my life. And it is whatever this is in front of you, and it all makes sense because of the broken skill Starlight Drive, which I'm sure that you are familiar with. Like, I don't think there is a single person who loves seeing this skill being activated. And well, this is like the most ugly combination of cards that I could think of that would still be good enough to reach King of Games. And unfortunately, because it's like a few hours before the season reset, people aren't playing very good decks, so somehow this deck is good enough to put me to King of Games, and we literally just won 5 games. And yeah. So a bit of interesting decisions have been made. Obviously we're playing a lot of one-offs because that is a very ugly ratio to be playing. And there's also like random 2-offs, like 2 Veilers and like 2 Cyanide Minings just to mix things a bit. There's like 1 random Twin Long Rods number 2, in case you're wondering. This guy doesn't do anything. He's just here to make the deck uglier. And if we draw it, there are 2 things we can do with it. We can either put it back into the deck with Plague Spreader, or discard it with Dark Lord Dealings, or we can normal summon it, and then if it's if we're going second, we can just use Cheng Ying and it goes up to 3200 because both the Hedgehog and the Plague Spreader will be banished, so that puts it to 32. And this guy has 850, so if you attack with this guy, it is lethal. So potentially we could deal lethal damage with this guy. And to trigger the skill going first, we are playing Ibli, which is like the cringe card of the deck. I mean, this entire deck is very cringe, but that's definitely the most cringe card. We have like 1 Engage to search 1 Vector Blast, 1 Dark World Dealings. We are playing with just 1 copy of each because that's uglier. And this card, Abyssal Designator, is like a card that you could play if you don't want to play all of the other better spells that send stuff to your opponent's graveyard on turn 1. This is really bad. Like, you pay 1,000 and then you declare a type and attribute, and then your opponent sends a monster with that declared type or attribute. So like, if you play against a guy with a legacy skill and you have no idea what they're playing, you actually just have no idea what to call. But usually you will know what your opponent's playing just from the skill that they have. But you know, and theoretically could work sometimes. Then, you know, they're like the good cards like Nibiru, Lava Golem, Ghost Spell, Ghost Mona, 1 Imperm, you know, just a bunch of slop. This is what the deck is. It's just a pile of slop. And 21 cards, by the way. Not 20, not 30, 21. Because that's uglier. And yeah. Okay, let me actually just show you some replays I've got with this deck. I don't actually have a lot of replays with this deck because it's late season and people just play bad decks and scoop. So yeah, let's hop into some replays. Okay, this is the first replay. We're playing against Blue Eyes, we are going second, and this is like the most enjoyable game I've played with this deck. Like, there's actually gameplay involved in this replay, and our hand is really bad. We have 2 Golden Sword Souls, which negates attacks. We drew 1 of the bricks, and funny Twin Long Rods that is supposed to do nothing. So this hand literally just doesn't do anything, but because we are playing the broken skill, anything is possible. And we'll just skip forward. Our opponent's just gonna do the Blue Eyes combo, featuring the Tachyon stuff as well, because every rank 8 deck plays the Dracoxion package. So the thing about Starlight Drive is that the deck just plays around a whole bunch of stuff. Like, if our opponent has 3 negates, we don't actually activate any card effects. We just activate our yellow button and then we just place guys on the field, so there aren't actually a lot of stuff that they could negate. So as you can see, we're gonna activate our skill. I'm gonna summon the Stardust Dragon. We're gonna dump a whole bunch of stuff to the graveyard. We haven't activated a single effect yet. We're gonna activate a skill again. We're gonna flip summon a bunch of stuff. We're gonna activate Shooting Star. That is the first effect. He has to negate that, otherwise his entire board will be destroyed. And then we're gonna make Cheng Ying, and then we just win the game because the Blue Eyes deck doesn't actually have a lot of outs to Cheng Ying, and the only like good out they have is Dingyusu, and we have to negate for Dingyusu, so we're fine. Like, they could make Tyrant Dragon and try to like beat over, but it won't work because we have to Bacon Saver in the graveyard. And then once we trigger the Bacon Saver, we can trigger the Banish effect to banish our opponent's Tyrant, which we are going to do it now. We can negate, even if our Bacon Saver gets negated, it doesn't really matter because it banishes itself for cost, and that will still trigger the Cheng Ying. And then we can just activate the skill again. I love skills like these. Isn't Duel Links just such a fun game? You know, they can activate the trap, you know, attempt to pop some of our stuff, but we can still negate it. And then we can just punch our opponent's guys one by one until he eventually dies. He will go True Light, but we can chain our trap because our trap can be activated to turn it set. And so all of his guys are gone. We can synchro our guys away, and then we can just go battle and win the game. I probably should have normal summoned the Twin Long Rods for the emotional damage, but you know, it's still a win. Okay, now we're actually looking at the replay. That is game number 5 that got me to King of Games. We're going first, and our opponent's playing Ancient Warriors, which would have been a cool deck, but we drew Cyanide Mining, and you know what that means. We are grabbing Ibli. And Ibli kind of just cooks the entire deck. We're gonna make an Almirage. Ibli goes to their field, and that allows us to use the skill on turn 1 because our opponent controls a card. And then we're just gonna dump a whole bunch of stuff to the graveyard, put back the Mourner because we don't really need the Mourner. And then make a Herald, and then use the skill again after flipping up the Stardust. And then we can just put the Synchron on the field plus the trap. Our opponent is gonna activate the skill, draw a whole bunch of cards, and then activate some Ancient Warriors cards. This normal summon guy can send the Ibli, but it sends as a trigger effect, so we can just pop it before it does that. And then he just can't do anything. What an awesome deck, right? Isn't Ibli such a fun card? Isn't Duel Links such a fun game, right? Alright, anyways, thanks for watching. Goodbye.